Travis Wayne Goodsell. So the third video I've got for you today, I was holding to last because I wasn't sure how to present it. And under the conditions I'm in, I'm just going to speak to you about it rather than do a whole elaborate pictures, words, and take too long and be a big project. And I'm already behind as it is. You guys don't know me, and I still, to this day, do not have a Wikipedia page. But I've accomplished much in my lifetime that very few people are aware of. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, and if you don't understand what it means to be a decipherer of a language, then you don't know about Jean Champollion deciphering the Rosetta Stone, and thus has led Egyptologists to exist. You're unaware of how our language was developed. But there were some errors as I came across having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, which was done by tying the characters, which were linear script, to different Egyptian characters. And I'm still baffled at how they botched it so badly. And it's William Foxwell Albright who botched it, but it was Sir Alan Gardner who suggested the botching in the first place. He was the one who recommended the acronym theory, and that's William Foxwell Albright then, using that to bias his research, created his theory, which is all crap. And so that then resulted in Proto-Sinaitic being discovered to claim that that's the original alphabet. No. Dear God, no. Proto-Sinaitic is a much later development. They were trying to reverse engineer. Instead of doing a linear script, they were going back to the petroglyphs. And so it is not the oldest. It was not the language of Abraham. But when you... God, it's just no respect. But that's what happens. You destroy a person's life, and they don't care about other people. It's all about them. But, and so, yeah, the different identification for the Egyptian characters changed the ballpark. It's a completely different paradigm. And as a result, yeah, Paleo-Greek, Greek, Aramaic, I've deciphered them all because I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. And that's my #1 seller on Amazon, are my books on that. And I'm in the top 2% for my academia book on it. But that also led to my discovery that the larger pictures scenes in Egyptian writing, seems weird to call it writing because there's carving as well, but have not been translated by Egyptologists because the Rosetta Stone did not have picture scenes on it. It had hieroglyphic and demotic. It was hieratic and demotic script. Actually, they had hieroglyph, didn't they? So it was hieroglyph. I thought it was just the 3. So it would be hieroglyphic and demonic, and then Greek. So there was no hieratic. No, not the language thing. Three versions. Get out of my way! Hieroglyphic, Demotic, yeah, and Greek. And you know the difference between Paleo-Greek and Greek by the omega symbol. If you've got the circle with the dot in the middle, it's Paleo-Greek. If you have the omega symbol that you know it as, the horizon sun rising, that's Greek. And yes, I'm the one who deciphered that for you. The one comes from the Egyptian sun character, the sun with a dot in the middle, which is Chinese, but the Chinese square it off. It's a square with a dot in the middle, which is more of a little slash thing, but it's just exact same word for the exact same character symbol. And so yes, I've confirmed Paleo-Hebrew with Chinese as part of my research for it. But the Egyptian scenes from our facsimiles, which you would know best, those are not listed in Gardner's or Budge's or anybody else's sign lists. They are left untranslated. They can explain them. They can say, oh yeah, that's Osiris, that's Set, that's Anubis, that's Isis. If you're familiar with facsimile number 3 in regards to Pharaoh, number 3, they have the Wikipedia page going over the translations. Yeah, you'll see that the female pharaoh, as Joseph Smith calls her, Pharaoh, and that's Abraham sat on the throne. But the explanation that Egyptologists give is they translate the text, which says the great Isis, mother of the god. And so they therefore explain that the figure is Isis. She's in the form of Hathor. How do we know this? Well, she's got the horns with the sun disk on her head. She does not have the throne on her head. Isis is the throne. Hathor is the horns with the sun disk. And so yes, they translated the text correctly, but they didn't understand that Hathor is the mother figure. Isis is the wife figure. And so you don't name her Isis just because the text does. You actually name her Hathor, which is the house of Horus, the queen who gave birth to Horus. And so Egyptologists aren't as smart as they want you to think they are. They make errors too, because they don't know how to translate the pictures. They only translate the text. And so this is an actual wedding that's being portrayed here, because Ma'at, who is personified as a human form, is holding the hand of the prince. And yes, that's an error in the explanation in Abraham. The prince is not the servant helping him through the temple ceremony, which is Anubis. That would be the case. And so the prince is getting married. Why would a prince get married? Because he's about to take over the throne. And there are co-regencies that occurred, depending. But again, if Joseph is referring to the female as Pharaoh, That would be Hatshepsut during the 18th dynasty, whose son was too young to take the throne when the father died. And so they put a male pharaoh representative on the throne to portray the wedding feast with the hand holding, which is their big clue there. And thus he's going to be coronated, because you have to be married in order to take the throne, and it would be to his sister. Or in Hatshepsut's case, Hatshepsut is actually Ma'at as well. So she's Pharaoh sitting on the throne. She's Hathor behind the throne. And she's also Ma'at marrying her son in order to solidify the throne, the bloodline. So get an Egyptologist to explain this to you. They won't. And apologists, oh dear God. They take a couple years of Egyptology and they think they're experts to defend the church. Yeah, they cave to Egyptologists. And then claim, well, Joseph never said he was a translator. No, he's a translator. He got this right. But he's not translating the text. He's translating the pictures. The bigger pictures that are not listed in sign lists. That's what you guys don't understand. And so, yes, what I just told you, I'm the decipherer of. I made that discovery, and I'm the decipherer. So again, you guys don't know me. You do not understand that when I give you videos explaining Scripture to you, that you are not in any position to claim you know better than me. You do not put in the research. You do not study. All you do is sit in class and learn from others as to what you're supposed to believe. And yet you think you have the audacity to come to me and tell me I'm wrong? That I'm... Yeah. And so we're not done yet. Like I said, you don't know me. So there's the story of Abraham sacrificing Isaac. They go up to Utah, to the top of the mountain, to do the sacrifice. Judah and Utah is the exact same thing. But there was no Judah in that story, other than that was one of his Jacob's sons, which I've gone over with you in the Sunday school lessons at the beginning of the year, until my internet got taken away and replaced with Wi-Fi, as I have here at the resource center, which is not a resource to just give me Wi-Fi. I need the internet. I'm not able to do my business as I need to, and the church knew this, and thus other conflicts involved. But so he's about to stab him. An angel appears and says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Here's a ram." If you take that literally, you're going to be wrong. It never happened. The characters never existed. It is the learning of the Jews, which means Messianic literature. It's trying to teach you about the concept of succession, father to son, as well as prophesy of the latter day Christ that is spoken of in Deuteronomy chapter 18, starting in verse 15. This is what all Jews know and understand as their Messiah for the latter days, whom they're looking for. And according to what I've heard from the Rambam, they don't know as much as I do on who he's supposed to be. It's weird. But the Jews would never acknowledge me as knowing more than their rabbis, and especially the Rambam. But the whole Jewish scripture are a checklist for him. And the Rambam should have known that, but Apparently all he knew was that Moses was a type and shadow of who he was, other than that was given to us in Deuteronomy 18:15. But with the Book of Mormon, Lehi left Jerusalem 600 years from the time Zedekiah took the throne. The first year is 597 BCE. Thus, 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem is 4 AD. There's no 0 year. And while searching for any kind of sign in 4 AD, and yes, checking 6th of April, because it's the Mormons. Mormons believe in the Doctrine and Covenants that Jesus was born on 6th of April, 1 AD. So I checked 1 AD as well for a sign in the heavens. And nothing, except for 8 April, 4 AD. And it was an annular eclipse over Russia. It started over in the what is next to it? Here, Asia. Is that gonna? I need images. I need designations here. Seriously? That's too tiny for me to read. What are you doing? Isn't there a thing where I can make this bigger? Finland. Yeah, it starts in Finland. Carries over into Russia. Dear God. And so trying to find the right city that would show it is a little difficult, but I had it saved in a file somewhere of which city is the best for it. Yeah, an annular eclipse, 8 April, 4 CE. And if you're curious, or if you understand that solar eclipses are for deaths. Even lunar eclipses are for deaths. Eclipses are deaths. That's the symbol of death. And a transition of authority from the old to the new. That's why it's called a new moon, when the moon is eclipsed on a monthly basis. And wouldn't you know it, that sign in the heavens is not just an eclipse of a death, the father killing his son, but it's also got Mercury, which is the messenger of the gods, right there in that sign as well. And the sign is in the constellation of Aries, the Ram or Lamb constellation, which is a sacrifice constellation, because of the Abraham sacrificing Isaac story. And so that story is actually giving us a star date, and for our 8 April 2024, or whoops, 4 CE. So yes, 20 years later, there's a total solar eclipse in America that crosses the one that occurred on 21st of August 2017. And thus, I was able to make my connection as to why the Book of Mormon was telling us about 4 AD CE. Because they're giving us Matthew gives it to us too, but you have to first know the date given by John in Revelation chapter 12, which is right there in the Book of Mormon. The God sitting on his throne, and then you have the coming of the Messiah figure, who is Jupiter in the heavens, and then the 12 stars following, which is from Revelation chapter 12, the sign that he gives, which is 23 September 2017. And so that's the birth sign, the start of the latter days. And the death sign is 8 April 2024, where Jupiter is now in Aries, and the solar eclipse that John talks about in Revelation 19 is in Pisces on the back of the white horse, angel standing in the sun. And we're not done yet. Samson, because I made this discovery that the stories are attached to star dates with signs in the heavens as the identifier of the story. You have 3 different deaths that occur in the stories of Samson. And Samson, as I've told you before, is composed of Shemesh, which is the Hebrew word for sun. And with the N, having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, that's the king designation, or kingdom for land. So because it's a person, the king, sun king, king of the sun. And so you have the sun king with 3 deaths, solar eclipses. So how do we identify the solar eclipses? Well, the first death is of the young lion. The lion constellation is Leo. 21st of August 2017, that solar eclipse was in the constellation of Leo. But wait, there are 2 other deaths. So we would expect, therefore, that the other 2 deaths would also occur over America in the constellations attributed. So the second death is actually a twofer. His first wife and her father are burned. Annular eclipse 2014. Is it 14? It's coming up next year. So, solar eclipse 2023. October 14th, 2023. It's going to be a Saturday. And guess which constellation? If the lion dies, now you have the wife dying. Yeah, Virgo. It's in Virgo. And so the last one, Samson dies. I've already gone over with you where that would be. It would be in Aries. The lamb, the sacrifice of the lamb, Revelation, the wedding supper feast of the lamb on the latter days. Yeah. So Jupiter is in Aries, but his actual birth is in Pisces from the middle of March to the middle of April. And 2,000 years ago, it was adjusted so that it would have been the middle of February to the middle of March. But according to our calendar of the latter days, and that's what they were referring to, it would have, that is his actual birthday. And so Jesus, with the 2 fishes and the 5 loaves of bread, yeah, those are also designated as birthdays. The 2 fishes are Pisces for that birthday, his actual birthday. The 5 loaves are for the 23rd of September 2017 at the Star of Bethlehem, Spica, in the constellation of Virgo, which is right at her womb, so that when Jupiter finishes retrograding, it then leaves at the womb area for the symbol of its birth from Virgo. And so they're talking about signs in the heavens for the latter days, even though they're talking about stories as if they were literally true. And they're not literally true. They use literal characters like Herod the Great, but it's completely out of the time zone that would have been.
And they purposely don't give us a date for the events that occur because they're giving us a future date. And so, yeah, I went over Matthew with you, chapter 2. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and that's not what they're talking about. It's not literal history. Constantine turned it literal. So now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Utah, Judea, so the 23rd of September 2017, he starts his mission in Utah. This is the prophecy. It's here in America. We've already established that. Joseph Smith is the one who says he's going to be a Mormon from the Great and Abominable Church to restore Joseph's church. Are you paying attention to my videos? Or are you slacking? Are you a lazy learner? And so he's supposed to be king of the Mormons, not king of the world, because the world doesn't want him. They've got their own Jesus or Allah or whoever their God is. This was supposed to be for Mormons. And Mormons don't even want it. They want Jesus. And so, yes, this is the consequences of deciphering Paleo-Hebrew, is that I've accomplished all of this. And so I'm the one who's been warning you about the signs in the heavens. I've been warning you about the events on earth associated with the signs in the heavens. Again, Joseph Smith translation, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. Sign in the heaven and likeness of things on the earth. And so, as we had signs in the heavens on Friday and Saturday, yeah, I went over them with you, and we now know what occurred for those days. They happened. And we're watching as the government portion of the sign that is also during this time period also is happening. A certain former asterisk president is getting trampled on by the king constellation of Leo. But you guys don't believe. And so nobody knows me, knows how I've had an impact in your lives, because I've was a part of the church's revision of the footnotes for the foreign language editions to incorporate the guide to the scriptures as the replacement. And when I mock Nelson for not being a translator, now you understand why. It's because I made those changes for them in the footnotes, and they rejected them. And so Nelson then gets up and botches what should have been corrected because they chose not to put it in. And it has to do with the stone upon which the builders rejected became the head of the corner. Nelson botched it with the chief cornerstone of the cornerstone. When it's supposed to be the cornerstone is rejected, becomes the capstone, the first and the last, author and finisher, alpha and omega, etc. And so it's Joseph Smith who gets rejected by the Mormons as they turn him into a Christian, becomes the capstone of the latter-day Messiah who restores Joseph Smith's church. Not complicated. And then the other one was Israel. Dear God, he botched that one. They even give you the definition in the English translation, and he still refused to accept it. See, Jacob, in usurping the birthright and blessing from his brother Esau, now gets to have the lineage of the Messiah for the latter days. Deuteronomy 18, verse 15. Even though it's a separate book, as Joseph becomes the Messiah figure of that book in Genesis. And yeah, let God prevail. Dear God, that's the white supremacist interpretation, and he used it. And you guys don't understand how he botched translation as the president of your church. I don't claim this great and abominable church no more. This is Lucifer's church, by definition, as prophesied in the Book of Mormon, in great detail, that all Mormons should be able to recognize them for themselves.
So, there you have it. That's what I've accomplished. And I've accomplished many other things in other scientific fields as well, but these are all related fields to what I've done. I've done psychology, I've corrected psychology, I've done philosophy, and other fields of science as well.